Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show. My name is indeed Avrum Rosensweig, and I'm very delighted to be here with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I am really excited about the show today because I am interviewing an individual whom I have never met before. We really just contacted one another in this past week, and we met about 10 minutes ago. And that, to me, is very exciting because, for all intents and purposes, I will be talking to a stranger when we begin. And I think that by the end of the show, we'll be warm friends. So, Stephen Joseph, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Avrum.
It's great to have you, man. And I know we talked about a little bit about what we were eating prior to the show. I was having a tofu stir fry. You had shmira matzah, right?
Yes, I was having my shura. Yeah. So I have to get rid of it. It's been here since April.
Yeah, we're almost at the next Pesach.
I know.
Do you eat shmira matzah all year round?
No. I do make matzah latkes all year round, though. I do make them. I make potato latkes. I'm making them tonight because my daughter's coming over, and I'm making. I make matzah latkes, which I kind of like.
Are you an individual who keeps the holidays?
Yes.
All of them?
Like not. Some more than others.
Passover, holidays.
Yeah, Passover, Hanukkah. I'm actually this Hanukkah we're going to Israel. So my wife's daughter, she's Haredi, so we go to and she lives in Modi'in Illit and Kiryat Sefer, and there we really celebrate the Hanukkah. Yeah, so
do you guys get along well? Does everything go well when you're with her?
Yes. So the interesting thing, we're not there. I went to yeshiva, and my wife went to yeshiva also. But my wife actually is not as religious, and it's kind of because she grew up in Buffalo, and her father sent her to Muncie for high school, and that kind of didn't go too well for her. So, but her daughter became more religious and became Haredi, moved to Israel, and they have like 5, 6 kids, and they love me. Everybody loves me. So
do they?
Yes. I'm in this town. I'm the only person in the whole town without a beard, I don't have my black hat, but I used to be like growing up, I used to be like the chazan, the cantor in synagogue. So I could do all of that stuff. I go to shul on Saturdays with them. So I do the whole thing.
Let's give our viewers, our listeners, a little bit of context as to who you are. You're first generation American, the son of a Holocaust survivor. Was that your mom and dad, or just your dad?
That was my mom. My mom was in Bergen-Belsen. My mom is from Czechoslovakia. My father's from Romania. And my father grew up in Bucharest, but he smuggled himself to Israel. Well, actually, it's Palestine. Then my father fought in the 48 war, in the 56 war. He worked for Zim Shipping Company, and he was in the New York Harbor. He took my mother on a blind date, bought her a cup of coffee, and asked my mother to marry him. And he didn't go back.
On the first date?
On the first date.
Is that because he wanted to marry her because he felt as though he would love her?
I think he wanted to, he actually really, I guess he hit it off my mother. I never asked my father about that, actually. I did ask my mother, like, how could you say yes to this guy? You didn't even know him. And my mother, she said, he looked like a hard worker.
It's so funny because the criteria in those days were so dramatically different than they are today. Let me just finish more about you. You're a masterful attorney, a seasoned negotiator, an engaging speaker, and an award-winning author. We're going to talk about your books quite a bit. You're a long distance runner. You've completed 58 marathons. Is that the number?
Yeah, yeah.
5 in Boston, 19 in New York City. Were you in Boston when the bomb went off?
I was actually, that's an interesting story because, yes, I was, first of all. But what was interesting about that was uh, that was actually the year before I ran the first Jerusalem marathon. And now, well, they probably canceled. I'm sure they canceled this year, but I ran the first Jerusalem marathon, and I was with my daughter, and I was going to pick up my number, and a bomb, like by the expo. I was going to pick up my number by the expo, and the bomb went off by the bus station that was across from the expo. But we made the wrong turn. We ended up in the old city, and ended up going on like some tour of the old city, and then everybody like heard, oh, there's a bomb went off. Bomb went off. So uh, the next day was the marathon. I picked up my number, ran the marathon. It was like maybe a small little squib in the Jerusalem Post that there was a bomb, and the mayor of Jerusalem, this is very successful. You barely even knew that the bomb did go off, even though a couple people unfortunately got killed. And the next year I ran Boston, and I was in the 10th corral of the first wave. And so they have 10 different corrals, and the second wave started a half hour later. So if I was in the second wave, I would have crossed the finish line right when the bomb went off. And I was already in my room. I didn't know about that there was a bomb, and people were calling me up. People from work. I got like news stations. The local news stations called me. I guess I was living in Rockland County, New York at the time, so they wanted to interview me when I was getting off the train in New York. It was quite an experience, and I was able to get the last Amtrak train back to New York before they shut everything down.
All right, I want to pick up on that in a second. I'm not sure that I've ever interviewed a marathoner, so I'm quite fascinated by what motivates you. But the good news, Stephen, is that we have sponsorship for the show.
Oh,
Yeah, muzzle tough on that, right?
yes, yeah.
The Avrum Rosensweig show is sponsored by the Professional Center, Toronto's premier co-working space at 120 Adelaide, where more is the standard. The industry leader since 1987, TPC offers private and team offices, fully equipped meeting rooms, collaborative workspaces, premier amenities, and exceptional hospitality. Book a day, a week, however long you need, a year, 2 years. Escape work from home distractions and discover more privacy, more productivity, and more community at TPC. For more information, visit theprofessionalcenter.com. You'll see it below below my face. And if you mention Avrum, AVRUM, you get 10% off private offices and meeting rooms. The way I read that, do you understand what they do? Was that clear?
It was kind of clear, but yeah, no, I'm interested. Tell me what. So like, I need like rooms, or like what kind of like services?
Yeah. Do you work out of your house or out of an office?
I work both. I work both remotely and in office.
Okay. Let's say you worked at home and you needed to work outside of your house. Kids are too loud or what have you.
Yeah.
TPC, right, exactly. TPC will rent you space within their 2 or 3 floors that they've leased out. And not only will you get the space for a day, for a week, for a month, but you can also use their resources.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
if you
good.
need an administrative assistant, they have one there for you.
Okay, great.
You know what I mean? Or computers
And
or
I get
whatever.
a 10% discount because I should say Avrum. That's
AVRUM. Don't misspell it.
AV. No. Don't worry.
So what is it about marathoners? Is there something distinctive about you guys?
I actually, I don't know if it's about us guys, whatever. I could know from my experience, like very, very different experiences. Being a son of a Holocaust survivor, it's almost like that survival kind of thing. That I think that's in my blood. That was kind of always like there. And I could tell you, and when I say it, it's like it's a weird thing because I had run. I was very heavy. I lost a lot of weight. I ran a couple marathons when I was in my late 20s, and then I turned 40, 2021. No, 2001, right after marathon. New York City Marathon was after 9/11, and I ran that marathon. It was 4 hours and 21 minutes, but I was a mess. I was like, okay, like I said, when I turned 40, I was going to run the New York City Marathon. Okay, so I did it, and uh, the thing was such a terrible experience. And you ask like any normal person, are you going to do that again? And then I decided to keep doing it, keep running. And when I turned 50, it was my best time in New York City, did 3:17. I don't know. I think it's that weird thing where it's just if I get knocked down, I just figure a way to get back up. It was that sort of thing. And the thing about marathons, I find it's as much mental, or probably more mental than physical. So, like running New York City, it's when I'm running into Manhattan, because I've done it so many times, I can know exactly how I feel compared to many other New York City marathons I've run. So, oh yeah, I could do 10 more miles. That'll be okay. So I like the mental part about that. I like the mental feeling of keep going, even though my body says, "What are you doing? Hey, Steve." Well, like I'm not happy, but you keep doing it. So
It reminds me of your statement about I could do another 10 miles. Here in Toronto would be another 16 kilometers.
yes, yes,
At the end of Yom Kippur, do you fast in Yom Kippur?
yes.
Okay, when you finish, you go, I'm not hungry. I could do another number of hours.
No.
You're not like that?
No.
Because I think it's a mental game as well.
Yes.
But that being said, your father was Rudy, your mother was Rose.
Mm-hmm.
And they should rest in peace. They've passed away. My parents as well. And your mom was a Holocaust survivor. I'm still trying to make that connection between your passion for marathons and being the son of a survivor. How does that work?
How does that? I don't know how that works. I mean, I do know. Just both my parents' stories. My mother, she didn't tell me much about her experience back then, but she would say when the British liberated Bergen-Belsen, they were going through. She was eating potato skins to survive, and but when they liberated the camp, they were going through the bones and like dead people, obviously, but they found my mother amongst the bones, and they rescued her and brought her back to health, and thank God she moved and lived and had kids and all that. And my father fought in the 48 war, the 56 war when he was in Israel, and he got shot in the elbow. So I always picture the elbow being near the heart. So I have both of my parents. It was like a miracle that they survived. Like just a few more inches, my father would not have made it. And if the British soldiers didn't find my mother, she wouldn't have made it either. So I guess it's that sort of that backstory that my parents told me that kind of drives me to go further more than like I would have thought I could go.
What is it like knowing that your mother was so badly abused? What is that like?
I guess there's a lot of admiration that she survived, and not only that she survived. My mother, I always describe my mother being a very funny person, and I find that I get my humor from my mother. So it's just like it's it's an amazing thing that you think about like this world, how things turn out. So it's not something I think about all the time, but it's always in the background. I think that's probably the best way to say it.
Was she a good mom?
Oh yes, yes, yeah. She was a good mom. She was the best cook in the world. She made the best gefilte fish, the
Interesting.
best rugelach, the best potato latkes, the best kiesbalances, the best uh, uh, everything. That was just everything. Yes, I could keep
But
going on.
did she communicate with you well? Was there a dialogue between you throughout your life?
Uh, there was my father was the more like was the more like uh, dialogue person, like just sort of talking. We would go for walks for ice cream. It was always my father was probably the like his two sons. I have a brother, so like the two he would take the two sons out for a walk. My mother uh, was more like, Stevie, do you feel like taking me to the beauty parlor? And I go, yes, that's what I was feeling to do. How did you know? I wanted to go to the beauty parlor. And back then, and the thing
My
about
exact
it,
thoughts. Yeah.
yes, it's like I don't want to go playing with my friends. It would be like a Wednesday afternoon in the summer, and we didn't even have a car. So when you say take your mother to the beauty parlor, it means getting on a bus that was not air conditioning, and you're
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
to Allerton Avenue in the Bronx, and then my mother, they put those things on your head and the curlers, and so it's a whole day affair. Uh, and then when you're done, Stevie, do you feel like
Yeah.
taking me to the butcher? Yes, that's what I want. Oh yes, of course,
Exactly.
that's what
That's exactly what I wanted.
I was.
Well,
You read my mind. Oh,
were you proud to be with your mom? Because I remember when I had to do that stuff with my mom, it was always like I couldn't wait till it was finished. Not because she wasn't a good woman or I didn't love her. I loved her very much. But just, like you're saying, walking with your mom to these places.
back then I laugh about it now because I like it was always. Do you feel like doing
Yeah.
it? Like
Yeah.
this is just. Aren't you in the mood? And it wasn't like, can you? I really need your help. Can you take me? Whatever. It was always, do you feel like it? And I did the laundry. We would go to the bank. This is growing up back then. You didn't have the ATM card could just go get money. We would go walk to the bank and
Yeah.
she would
Yeah.
have the check. My father worked in a cold cuts factory. Neither of my parents went past sixth grade education, so we would just wait on this long line at the bank just to
Yeah.
deposit a check, and that could have been like an hour and a half, 2 hours. That's what we did. So uh, I never thought about like, oh, I just don't want to be here. I just uh, that's what you did,
Did
and
you
yeah. So it was taken for granted, I guess.
did your dad bring home cold cuts for the family?
My father would bring me. The only thing he would bring would be 60 hot dogs to take to school. When I was in college, he would bring me hot dogs to take to college. So I always had an endless supply of hot dogs in college.
How did you feel about your dad working in a corned beef factory?
Uh, I felt my father woke up 4 o'clock every morning.
Yeah.
He left like 5 o'clock. He came home around like 5:30 at night. He was very always would like he was like sitting falling asleep on the recliner, watching TV every night. So uh, it was and this is like a working class, like this is in the Bronx, working class neighborhood, and it wasn't like I had to worry about like all my friends' parents were lawyers and doctors, and my father was making pastrami. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like I had a friend. His father was a postal worker, and someone other's father had
Oh,
this
I
little
see.
business. Sort of thing. So I didn't have to compare like, oh, like, and a lot of other people came from the same background, and and this was Cope City in the Bronx, and there was like a little park out behind the building, and I always said that I never took my parents never took a beach vacation. They took the bench vacation. Everyone, people sit on the bench and talk about their kids.
Yeah.
Just oh, my son, he's going to law school. Oh, my son is a piano concertist. And then they would come back to the house. Marty found a job that blah blah. Why can't you do it? So that's what they would do, and or they would watch TV, and like I remember watching the Olympics, and Torval and Dean, the ice skaters, they would do somersaults and this, or my father loved watching Nadia Comaneci, the gymnast, because she was like Romanian. My father was Romanian. So why can't you do something like that? It's like, well, I never took gymnastic lessons, never took ice skating lessons, just, or like they would watch I always remember the lifestyles of rich and famous. They're watching Liberace. And why can't you play piano like I should be like Liberace? Well, we didn't own a piano. It didn't make a difference. I should be like Liberace.
Yeah, right, exactly. But
And I was only 14 years old. It's like I'm 14. I'm supposed to be like Liberace and skate like a gold medalist and do gymnastics and all that at the same time.
yeah, I was supposed to be a big Talmud scholar. Yeah,
Oh,
never quite made it. Now, the South Bronx, is that the part of the Bronx which is somewhat tough? The North Bronx is a little easier.
the South Bronx. Well, now everything is being changed, but back then, the South Bronx, that's where it's kind of shady, and yes, it's not the nicest place. I mean, even now, I'm sure it's wouldn't walk there at night. Uh, but the South Bronx, yes, it's a little bit. I grew up partly in the South Bronx, and then I moved to the Northeast Bronx, which was a little bit different. But yeah,
Did you get into fights when you were a kid?
some fights, yeah.
Was there any anti-Semitism?
Uh, not much. No. The interesting thing, growing up in the Bronx, I didn't feel anti-Semitism. The first time I felt anti-Semitism actually was going on a Shabbaton to somewhere up like in Maryland near Washington D.C. and we were like you go to synagogue, and then you have like all kinds of things, and then Saturday night there was some sort of activity, but then there was like, I forgot, somebody was like saying, like yelling at us because we're Jewish. So I felt it felt there was an air of anti-Semitism in that wherever we were at. It just felt, even though we went to this beautiful synagogue, and the wonderful Jewish family kept put up all the kids in different families, and it was a great time. But I did feel like, oh, this is kind of like I'm out of like the Jewish element, because where I grew up, everybody was Jewish. So
Mm-hmm.
so I never thought about that.
Since October 7th, have you experienced anti-Semitism?
I have not. I personally have not. I have not gone, like I haven't walked to Columbia University, anything like that. No, I have not gone into like any kind of areas where I would be subject to that. No.
Now, you're a lawyer. You live in New York City.
Yes, I lived actually in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is across from New York City. I see. I have a terrace. I stare at the Empire State Building.
Could you see the Twin Towers?
Uh, if I go outside, I could see the Freedom Tower now, and
Freedom Tower, yeah.
yes, and yes, it's clear view. just I run by it all the time, and I actually work down pretty close to it.
Were you in Hoboken in a 9/11?
No, I was 9/11. I was living in Nyack, Rockland County, New York, and I remember biking with this rabbi, actually, Rabbi Reuben Modek, and we were biking in the morning, and we went to Piermont, and there's this pier that goes all the way out, and it was such a blue day, and I remember commenting to Rabbi Reuben saying, "Oh, look, you can see the Twin Towers." And that was the last time I saw the Twin Towers, actually, other than, on TV, what was happening.
So just to take a trip back to your marathoning, to your running, you run every morning for 2 hours, don't you?
Yes, I wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, and I try to get out 6, from 6 to 8:30. Yeah.
What time do you go to bed at night?
I go to bed early. I go to bed like around 9:30. I go to bed early.
Well, you wake up early. It makes a lot of sense, right?
Yes. I love the morning. I am a morning person. I love the sunrise, and I run along the river, and yeah, it gets me going.
Yeah, what I find fascinating is that you're an author. You've written a number of books, and again, we're gonna talk about that shortly. But you said in an interview, which I was listening to, that a lot of your characters speak to you while you're running, and I thought that was very compelling.
Yeah, no, it's so much fun when that happens. I have this one story in Cranky Superpowers. I have Cinderella Crankosaurus, and there's this scene in there with the king and the queen bothering the prince to marry Snow White, and the queen is saying, a prince used to be a frog. Was a frog, so can't be so picky. And the father said, your mother was living with 4 giants. Snow White was living with 7 little men,
Yeah.
and that kind of bothered the prince. Just like, ooh. So and they were smelly too. Yeah, it just was good. But so the father's going, your mother lived with 4 giants when we met, and the prince going, well, that's different. They were guarding the castle. Like Snow White has to clean and cook for these little slobs. It's terrible. So I have that. When that happens, it's so much fun. I don't feel like I'm running. I'm just like watching like a show.
Right, but when you say that your characters speak to you, do you speak back?
No, I just watch a show. It's just, if I happen to be a character, then maybe I guess I could throw in my 2 cents, but like I had one chapter. I have Captain Kirk is interviewing Mr. Spock for the first officer job. So again, they're just doing this interview. I'm just like watching. I have like a little thought in my head that triggered the whole storyline, but then I just let them go at it.
It's very interesting. Is I've interviewed a number of authors in the last little while. Actually, I just interviewed a fellow by the name of Nurin Ripsman, who wrote a book called "The Oracle of Spring Garden Road" about a homeless fellow who was religious, a religious Jew.
Wow.
Very, very compelling book. And he's written a book of short stories. And I think the central motif of his writing is a lot of separation, a lot of tragedy in people's lives. He focuses on that. Very fine writer and very interesting stories. But there is that central core of what he writes, which is somebody suffering very badly and losing someone that they love. Whereas with yours, is it appropriate to say that the central motif of your writing and of your books is Taurus, is being cranky? Would that be correct?
Well, like, so my first book on cranky, so like how it started I wrote this kid's book, The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the
Yeah.
Tyrantocranchosaurus.
Right.
And the story is about the smallest dinosaurs on the planet who kept cranking out a saurus that all the other dinosaurs couldn't take it anymore and they dropped dead. And then all the humans evolved from this one little dinosaur, which explains why when kids or babies are born, they come out crying
Yeah,
because
cranky.
So, and somebody commented that some critics said, I didn't talk enough about overcoming crankiness, and this is about embracing our crankiness. And I started writing stuff about, my first book was a grown-up guide to effective crankiness, the Crankosaurus method. And my new book is Cranky Superpowers, Life Lessons Learned from the Common Crankosaurus Chronicles. And it really focuses on you noticing your crankiness and how to make it into a positive, into like a superpower, as opposed to using it whatever ineffectively and you end up hurting people. So my father was one of those people. Whatever was in the head came out of the mouth, like just
No
there's
filter.
no filter, no filter. And a lot of people are like that. So. Um, a lot of times it's just about noticing the crankiness, how to identify it, and I like to give it a name, so like the Crankosaurus, because I call it the common Crankosaurus, because if you think about a common cold, you have one or two a year. A common Crankosaurus, you can have 3 or 4 in a day,
Yes.
and because it's so common, first of all, you can't get like, I'm cranky, and this is a common thing. Everybody has it. So I'm not going to beat up myself for being cranky. I'm not going to but I notice it, and what could I do with it to make be more effective?
I did a little bit of research into what it means to be cranky, and here are a few aspects of crankiness, and tell me if this resonates with you. Irritability, short fuse, lower tolerance, physical symptoms, impact on relationships, self-awareness. Would you qualify yourself as a cranky person?
Yes, I do notice. I qualify myself as a cranky person, and I have to say that even writing this, it's been cathartic. I teach myself. So one of my favorite chapters. This is in the Grown Up Guide to Effective Crankiness. Drive me crazy, Crankosaurus, and the thing, and I create all these different stories where there's this line. And everybody has this line where, and you have to fill in the blanks. It drives me crazy when, and then blah blah blah, fill it in. I can't understand how. So what triggered that is. My daughter went to have her windshield replaced, and the windshield replacement people, and that's the only thing they do is replace windshields.
Yes.
Did it wrong. So I'm thinking, I can't understand how the windshield replace, and it drives me crazy when. I noticed when it just was a light goes off my head. I do that. That's like someone presses your buttons. And I remember when my daughter, she would do things as a kid, it was the exact reaction. It drives me crazy when I can't understand how. And when you notice that happens to me, it happens to everybody. And then you know what? It happens. I'm not gonna react as strongly as I might have done, and it was just by writing these different stories. So in that chapter, I also talk about there is we go to a restaurant, and everybody has the same reaction. We're not getting served. It drives me crazy when, and of course 3 other people come after you. They're already getting their dessert. Yeah. They haven't even taken our order. So it drives me crazy when I have to wait for 5 hours to get my given order. And I can't understand how they didn't get to us. And then complaint to the owner. The owner has this, it drives me crazy when my waiters aren't taking care of the customers. The waiter has the same, it drives me crazy when the owner is directing me to go where to go and I have to do all of these. So everybody had the exact same reaction for different reasons. And it's writing that kind of story that you can have different players having the same kind of like explosions in their head for completely different reasons, even though they're in the same kind of situation.
Do you study Torah at all, or you were in yeshiva, right? So you must have studied.
I went
Torah.
to yes, I went to yeshiva and I studied some Torah. Yes.
Where did you go to yeshiva? I went in Toronto.
I went to Yeshiva Torah V'Amuna.
Are you religious today?
I am not religious unless I go to when I go visit, say, in Kiryat Sefer in Israel and Modi'in Elite, where everyone's Haredi. I'm the only one without a beard. Then I become religious.
When you're there and you become religious, do you say to yourself, "Damn, I should be doing this all the time," or do you say, "I can't wait to get back home"?
No, I there's some things I love so much about it. I love how I love the ritual. I definitely could be more religious when I go back home. I find actually it gets tiring of Fridays and Saturdays. Like Friday, I'm cooking all Friday afternoon, and then I have to get dressed to go to shul, and then and then waking up I go to her son-in-law Mati. Mati, what time do shul start? Oh, 7:30. I also have to be there 7:15. Yes. So I'm waking, and we're having, and if I was there in May, so Shabbos starts late, and then Friday night dinner ends late. So I'm in bed like 12 o'clock, waking up at 6, and it's still nice. I still enjoy the rituals.
Yeah, I do too. The reason I asked you about studying Torah is because in the Chumash, in the 5 books of Moses, the Jewish people are constantly of tourists. They're constantly complaining, right?
Yes.
As an example, when they were walking in the desert early on, they said to Moses, there weren't enough graves in Egypt, which a lot of people say that's the only joke you find in the Torah. It's like a Jackie Mason joke. There weren't enough graves in Egypt, right? And you'll find complaints throughout their sojourn. So, a lot of scholars will say, listen, rather than dumping on the Jewish people for being such complainers, let's turn that around and see if there is something positive about mitlonanim, as they say in Hebrew, about the Jews complaining. I happen to think that there is. I think that complaining is a function of being kicked out of one country after the other, being of tourists throughout history, so much anti-Semitism. But because we complain, it allows us to see things in a different light. And sometimes to push ourselves to do even better. Oh, this is not good. I can't deal with this. I don't so let me try this instead. Do you think there is something inherent or historical to the tourists of the Jewish people, the complaining of the Jewish people, and how that translates into your life today?
Well, yeah, definitely, and it makes me seeing things. Actually, there's many different ways because people tend to be judgmental, and I try not to. And as a lawyer, I try to be very mindful of that. But you talk about complaining through the history in the Torah, and one of the chapters, I actually kind of recreate the story of the Jewish people leaving Egypt and going to the land of milk and honey. So Aaron comes home. Miriam, look, I have this piece of paper in my hand. What's a brochure? It's not any brochure. It's tired of Egypt in the winter. How about the land of milk and honey in the spring? But there's a small print. Miriam says, what is this? It says, please be forewarned, while we hope for the best, We will only have prepared for the worst. So of course, every point of the way, it's like they get to the Red Sea. It's where's the cruise ship? I heard your great 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 grand uncle Noah had even had a zoo on his cruise ship, and he goes, no. Well, we hope for the best. We only prepared for the worst. So and they go into the desert, they get lost. You have a map, and again, every time there's something wrong. Well, we hope for the best. We only prepared for the worst. And finally, they were going around in circles in the desert, and one of the only foods they had was borscht. And somebody finally figured out if they drip the borscht behind them from where they go, that will be the line in the sand, so they know they're not going in circles anymore. Right. And that line in the sand became known as the Borscht Belt.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Do you want to know some very acerbic, cranky people in history? Winston Churchill, while he celebrated for his leadership, during World War II, Churchill was also known for his fiery temper and his very blunt demeanor. Did you know that?
I knew he's a big drinker. I didn't know.
And cigar smoke.
Yeah, and he smoked, yeah.
Napoleon Bonaparte, the French military leader and emperor, had a reputation for being highly demanding and quick to anger, particularly in his quest for power. Ludwig van Beethoven, the composer's personal letters and accounts from his contemporaries suggest that he was frequently irritable and struggled with interpersonal relationships. Bonaparte.
Bonaparte. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
And Jean-Paul Sartre, the French philosopher and playwright, had a reputation for being abrasive and confrontational, both in his personal life and professional debates. You have a 29-year-old daughter, Vida, and your wife, Carolyn. Are they complainers?
Yeah. Yes, they are. They are big complainers. Yes. And actually, how my first story, I wasn't planning on doing this, but I was in Rome with my wife. We had actually flown from Israel, and we had this Airbnb place in Rome. And my wife, and it was in the middle of the summer, and the electricity went out, and then the dye was going in her hair, in her eye, the black dye. She was coloring her hair. Black dye goes in her eye. She became very cranky. And I told my wife, you're a Tyrannosaurus. It just slipped out of my mouth. And I go, that's probably how all the dinosaurs died. There's one little dinosaur cranking out its saurus, and all the other dinosaurs couldn't take it, and they dropped dead. And that got a laugh out of her. But then, like a few months later, actually, when I was in Israel again, I wrote that story.
How long did it take you to write it?
Well, the story, that's the funny thing. Like, I've had 3 out of my 4 kid books I've written it while I was in Israel. And again, I run it, it gets written while I run. And actually, one of the books, it was on Shabbos. I was like so tired, and I slept for 2 hours after the Saturday meal, and the whole story was written in my head while I was sleeping. It was just like I was dreaming about the story, and then it just kind of all fit in.
And when you woke up, you remembered it all?
Yes, I remember that one. Yeah.
I just want to refer to a snippet or sort of the context of one of your books, Snoodles in Space.
Yes.
A Snoodle, the Zoodle Kidoodles, and one happy
Schmoodle.
Schmoodle, yes. Yeah, SCH, Schmoodle. In this follow-up book, when the Zoodle Kidoodles from the planet Zoodle abduct Norman Noodle and Sally Strudel, the Zoodle Kidoodles threaten to take all of Earth's noodles unless they perform the necessary brain operation on their grand leader, Cludle, the Grand Rudel, and fix their spaceship's failing engine. Now, why this is so important is because there was a powered Snoodlemobile, which was powered by noodles, right?
It was powered by noodles and also had a prickly peppered purple propulsion powered pickle.
Right. A lot of alliteration in there. So if the noodles were stolen and there were no noodles on Earth, then this Snoodlemobile ostensibly could not run. Is that correct?
No, that's correct. Yes, you know your Snoodles.
Yeah, thank you. But why would that be a problem? Like the yeshiva, why would that be a problem that the Snoodlemobile could not run? Why is that a problem?
Well, it's a problem because before the Snoodle, there was the Krautmobile, which only ran on sauerkraut, and everybody was very cranky by like 10 o'clock in the morning. Like, like, Avrum, you stink like sauerkraut. Oh, well, I stink like you stink like sauerkraut too. And everybody got cranky. And before, in my next book, I actually talk about there was Grumpy Grimy Grudelman, who had the Grudel, which ran on gruel, and that was also kind of stinky and made the water. They would dump the gruel into the water, and everything was like gray and icky and not very good. So the Snoodle, which ran on noodles, and not only ran on noodles. You're driving your Snoodle, and you get home, you go press a button, you get a nice bowl of noodles.
Oh,
Right,
nice. Nice.
dinner is already. Just like from like it was everybody loved their Snoodles.
So the problem, one problem of this failing spaceship, Norman Noodle and Sally Strudel are simple bakers. Sour Krudelman's prickly peppered purple propulsion powered pickle invention is their only hope. But will he unite with Herbie Snoodleman to save the planet? The answer is here in this wackadoodle tale from outer space. Do females like your humor? Because to me, it's very male.
Yes. The females have liked my humor. I do get that. There's Brianna Brainy Brutal. She's like a great brain surgeon because her uncle Herbie Snoodleman taught her. So you do have Brianna Brainy Brutal. And in the follow-up book, the Zoodles Strike Back, you have there's Frimpy Frumpy Fruital and Wimpy Whiny Woodle. She's female, and you have Sally Strudel. So there are these female characters in the book. Even though in Zoodle that's a good idea. I don't have any female Zoodle characters. No, that's right. I'm missing a female Zoodle. I should see. That'll be my next book.
We're co-writers. Yeah, we're co-writers.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm a very silly. I'm a very silly person, and I like to be really silly because life is hard.
Yes.
There's a lot of bad shit going on, and so I like to be silly. So I'm walking around the house the other day, and I'm thinking about literature because I'm doing a lot of interviews with authors, as I said. And for some reason, F. Scott Fitzgerald comes to mind. And immediately I say aloud, F. Snot Fitzgerald.
Uh-huh.
F. Snot.
Yeah.
Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I get it.
Scott, Snot.
He's not snot.
And I do this a lot. Do you do that?
Not with F. Scott Fitzgerald. I
No,
wouldn't do it.
with these names that you come up with and these crazy ideas, that this thing is run on noodles, used to be sauerkraut. Like, that's a very fertile imagination you have.
Yeah, I don't know where I come up with it, but in the next book is Escape from Zoodle Trash. That's coming out next year. So yeah, there's a lot of different crazy new names. That's more on music. So you have Swifty Swoodle and the Doo-Wop-A-Doodles. So it's almost like a takeoff on Taylor Swift. So yeah, no, I don't know where I come up with that. And what's interesting, my illustrator, when he draws, he's drawing backstories. He has like all these backstories of different characters, and he has different ideas. And he kind of says, "Oh, we need something more." He loves doing this. He said, "I work for free," and the thing about it is like I'll have nothing, and then the story just pops. It just explodes in my head. So so when like I love when that happens. So in this book, that just the escape from the Zoodles Strike Back, episode 2, Snoodles in Space, episode 2, the Zoodles Strike Back. That story, and I love, first of all, I love the concept of redemption. So in that story, it's a takeoff on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Hmm.
So and I love the Gene Wilder one. That's my favorite one. I just had watched that, and then the light bulb went in my head because, like, geez, there was a lot of media attention. There's a media frenzy. The paparazzi was out there. This was the first time kids were going to go into this chocolate factory, Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, and in the original movie, you have Charlie. He's a good boy. He's a nice boy. Does everything right. And then you have these kids that, they kind of like don't pay attention to rules, and it doesn't turn out right. So I thought, like, wow. And there must have been a lot of shaming, and the press must have been brutal with them. So I'm going to make them the heroes of this book.
Yeah.
So, like in this book, I've Frumpy Frumpy Fruital. Has a fitsy witsy papa doodle. So first he fits, and then he wits, and then he popped. And then Wimpy Whiny Woodle has a swizzly twizzly slime doodle. So first she swizzled, and then she twizzled, and then she turned into a bucket of slime. And yeah, of course, yeah, the newspapers were terrible. And their evil cadoodle and the Zoodles had this plot to turn everybody into willy nilly noodles and dilly dally doodles. And they overheard the plot. They decided to do the right thing, and they become the heroes of the story. So, yeah, it's just like it's more like while I like ridiculous, I'm very, very serious in terms of like the lesson I want
Yeah.
learned. That's very important. It has to have like some sort of like message.
Yes, you wrote, we're all cranky at times, but it's imperative we find a more effective way to be cranky while still making the world a happier place. And you write that in this book, a particular book you were referring to, you said you can learn how to, excuse me, create space for both yours and your family's crankiness, utilize a fun team approach to crankiness, take steps to avoid being too cranky, which is a good point. You don't want to get too crazy. Improve communications with friends and family. Handle cranky dinosaurs in your life, including children. Effectively diagnose and treat the common crankosaurus. So you're right. So there's a craziness in your book, like sort of a Dr. Seuss approach or Ogden Nash. I love your alliterations. I love the names that you develop, and they're hilarious. But you're right. When you read the book, there is something very serious about the lessons that you're trying to teach, right?
Yes. So like I love the concept of tikkun olam, healing the world. That sort of thing. That's very important for me. And like even the lessons. I talk in the my first book, A Grown Up Guide to Effective Crankiness, when I go to Kiryat Sefer, this Haredi town. My wife's daughter is the most amazing mother of these 5 kids, and they play so nicely together, and they all get they all like along with each other. They all help out. Everybody in the community helps out. And when one of the kids misbehaved, I always I took wow, that's a great line. She goes, "This is not. It's never about you are bad. You shouldn't do this. It's just that this is not what we do. We don't do this.
Mhm.
This is not. We as a collective, we as a community, we just don't. This is not what we do. And so because we don't do it, just that's not what we do. And kids hear about that. It's not. It's never the I. It's the we. And I think that's powerful. And I even talk about in that book, like people always say, use your words. So let's say you're very good at using your words, like I am angry, and tomorrow I am angry again, and next day I'm angry again. I always say I'm angry, and I could say, oh, Avrum, you're very good in saying using your words to tell me you're angry. But since you're telling me you're angry every day, I think you're an angry person. And I'd rather say, no, let's not do that. I have a crankosaurus. I have the common crankosaurus. I have something that everybody experiences. It's the we concept. So I'm not going to label myself as the angry person. I'm going to label myself as this sweet, loving kid it happens to have that common crankosaurus that everybody, mama, dad, papa, grandpas, everybody experiences.
Does you being a pundit in the area of crankiness and saurus, does that play a role at all in your lawyer world?
Uh, yes, I mean, yeah. Well, I think that they complement each other.
Yeah, how so?
Uh, it's like one of the things I like doing. I like turning things upside down to make you see, uh, like the way forward. So like just going into my lawyer life, uh, and I've written on this on my legal side. I've written an article, fighting fire with water. So, and again, it's humor, but it's to make a point where I manage lawyers, and I've heard more than 10 times, more than enough to fingers my hand. We have to fight fire with fire.
Yeah.
I go, this is very interesting. So I went to the firehouse. I went to the fire chief. I go, what high impact explosives do you use to put out fire? I'm thinking of smoking in bed, but I want to know how much lighter fluid do I have to put on the mattress before I light up? And he looked at me. He said they use water. Can you believe it? They use water. And I say, water is crystal clear. It puts out fire. Where's our water? Just like looking at that. So again, it's like taking something and like flipping it. I just, again, in my legal world, I teach about negotiation, and I say arguments take away your power. You don't want to be arguing in a negotiation. And lawyers, oh my God, I went to law school to argue. I like to argue about this. I don't want to argue about that. I want to argue about everything. And the problem with that is that in the legal world, if I'm making an argument, like you could imagine the other side, no one ever has the reaction, oh no, I'm going to pee in my pants. I didn't expect that one. Oh God, I'm melting. I'm melting. It's like they already know your argument. So because they know your argument, they're not going to give it any weight. They just prepared their response. They're not even listening to what you're saying. So it's not that we don't argue. I tell people, it's like, how do we phrase it? Like, I have X, A, B, C, and D. I have X, Y, and Z. When I have these things, I'm going to come to this conclusion. So that's I'm not arguing with you. It's just this what I have. And if I have this, what kind of conclusion I come to? And this is the only logical conclusion. Again, it's not argument, but it is an argument, but I'm making it not sound argumentative. That's the difference.
We come from a background where our parents were sometimes fain to give us too much credit for anything. Right? You could have been Liberace, which means you're not Liberace, and our parents would take that far, but that's the generation they came from. That's the time they came from. We forgive them. But with that, are you able, with all your successes, running marathons, 58 marathons, being a successful lawyer, a masterful lawyer, as they call you, and writing all these books, which are doing quite well, are you able to pat yourself on the back? You the man of Taurus, are you able to say, way to go, Stephen, you're doing well?
Well, I'm 63, and I could still do this. I just feel grateful. I think that I try not to like make it like I do feel grateful, but I feel like somebody, like, because I didn't plan this, like it almost came from somewhere else, sort of thing. So I feel grateful. Like I wasn't like didn't plan on running marathons. I didn't plan on writing books. I didn't plan on a lot of these things, and it just happened. It's just something. So I feel grateful that somebody or some power that I don't know about put something in me that I could put out there. So I feel the one thing, like when I go to this town, like my wife's son-in-law, he studies all day, and just like just studying, and I'm more like I feel like in a way I'm religious, but it's like a partnership, that I'm going to do the work, And if I do the work, there's something that's going to happen that it's not just me. I do some work, but I can't do it all. And somebody kind of like, I feel blessed. So that's how I look at it. Uh, I have a sense of pride, yes, but I feel like grateful.
Do you believe in God?
Uh, I want to, yes, I try to. Yeah. I believe that there's somebody there.
My sister often says, who's very religious, she said, God put this idea in my head. Is that kind of what you're referring to? Whatever it is out there,
Whatever is out there,
I'm
yes.
channeling the divine, that sort of thing.
Yes. That is it. It's like, uh, and actually, I just to tell a story. This is where this just when something comes from the heart. It's so great. So, uh, I was actually talking about my illustrator, who I love to death. Uh, it's amazing the work he does, and I was being interviewed right around Passover, so I was thinking about Passover, and I wrote this a blog. It's not in my book, but it's a blog. I call it "Lost in Translation: Crankatsaurus," and I took the prayer Dayenu, and I find it that prayer is just fascinating to me, not because of the tune that we sing. Like, you go having your Seder, and it's like, die, yenu, die. It almost sounds silliness. There's a silliness to that. But the words, like, it would, like, if you only did this and didn't do that, the first thing would have been enough. Oh, you did that? Oh, if you did this, but you didn't do that, it would have been enough. And that's such a, so I'm thinking about my illustrator. There's so many Dayenus I could say about my illustrator. If you only did the first book, but not the second book. If you only did like okay illustrations, but not amazing, Dayenu. And I said, I hope, the only thing I could hope for is I could do something that my illustrator could say, Steve Dayenu. And it's just that power. And then just thinking about how we treat each other with the concept of Dayenu. Like how, if we could give and receive and every day say a Dayenu to someone we love, or like that, like someone gave me something, but they gave me so much, and I could say, if you gave me only like a tiny bit, still Dayenu, and getting the Dayenu back in return, that would be so powerful, and we don't think about it enough. But instead, sometimes we're singing this silly song, but not thinking the words. That's why I called it Lost in Translation.
Are you? That's lovely what you said. Very lovely. Um, are you and your illustrator literary soulmates?
Yes, we are. He's in Nottingham, England. I get to fly out to Nottingham.
What's his name? What's his name?
Andy Case.
And how did you meet him? How do you know him?
So the first book, The Last Surviving Dinosaur, I went through Mascot Books. I didn't know him. But they gave me like 75 different illustrators, their material. I had to pick out the 3 I liked the best. Then from the 3, I had to pick one, and I picked Andy. So, and I never, like, he did the book. I never met him. I never talked with him. It was always through through Mascot Books. So when it came to Snoodles, Kidoodles, Poodles, and lots of noodles, I looked up Andy and I reached out to him directly. I go, Andy, you wrote this other book for me. I'd like to work with you. And he said, oh yeah, he wrote back, and we've been doing this Snoodle thing. So 3 books are out. He's working right now on the 4th one. And he's also going to be working on Cinderella and the Froggy Prince, which is my Cinderella story. That's completely different from the regular Cinderella because she gets a megaphone. She gets her voice. That's the message in that book. And so that's a different story. But yeah, it's I have a lot of Dayenus there. I like it would be like 5 hours of like the Seder just singing Dayenu.
Do you fit in? Are you understood?
Yeah, I think so.
Why do I ask that?
What?
Because
Yes.
this is so much different. The talk around the Shabbos table generally doesn't talk about It might talk about canadles, but
Uh,
you know what I mean? Like your approach to life, which is very beautiful, actually, is strange. It's imaginative. It's quirky as hell. You're quirky as hell in a beautiful way. But often people who grow up like you, and I'm very similar to you, they sense that people don't really understand me, but you feel understood.
I feel understood. I feel like uh, I love it when I do it. Yeah, I'm trying to do an aha moment
Mhm.
and take things that people are very familiar with. So I think I'm understood. I hope so. Yeah, just like yeah, no, but uh, I I could tell from it's great reading the reviews of Cranky Superpowers
Mhm.
uh, that I they get it. That's the most exciting thing. They get it. Uh, so like I have over 300 something reviews on Amazon. It's 4.8 out of 5 stars. I got a first prize for humor, first prize for uh, inspiration category books, and first prize for self-help. So it's like a book. If you need help, you need inspiration. If you don't like help, you don't like inspiration, and you don't like to laugh, you don't read my book.
You're
But
probably dead if that's the case. How did
but
how
yeah,
did
they
how
get it.
did how did it feel to win those awards?
It was great. It was really it was. I've been married to therapists for 30 years,
Yes,
so
I have. Yeah.
and I'm a lawyer, so and the thing was in my first marriage, my wife would make me read all these self-help books, and it was always written by a therapist, and basically I would read these books. The first chapter, oh, that's good. I really like it. Good. They talk about some case, whatever, and then the second chapter is like that sounds like the first chapter, and then the it's like their greatest hits, but it's the same idea, but they're just beating a dead horse.
Yes.
And so what I kind of combine everything I've learned from negotiation as a lawyer, just being funny, just life, like growing up in the Bronx, that sort of thing will, and having it like the big soup, this big delicious soup, that's good stuff could come out of it.
Your more information about Stephen Joseph can be found at stephenjosephauthor.com. That's www.stephenjosephauthor.com. I have to tell you that I enjoyed this interview very much. I find you
Well, I
fascinating.
thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It was a lot of fun, but by the same token, you're a very serious man. You have goals and objectives, and you work towards them. I have a question, which is a little bit out there, but I ask a lot of my guests whether they're Jewish or not Jewish. After going through an interview like this with you and seeing what you've succeeded at in life, and kol hakavod, as they say, well done. It's quite a bit. You've done quite well, and you come from meager beginnings. Your parents suffered greatly when they were young, but yet out of their toil and out of their work and their persistency and survival instincts came you and came your brother. And I look at us as a Jew and I say, my God, so many of our people are like this, are just driven to do well and driven to make the world a better place. Tikkun olam, as you mentioned before,
Yes.
repairing the world. So, with that, my question to you is, we know who our people are. I'm going to put some words in your mouth here, but we know who we are. We're good folk. We're really good folk. We do good things.
Yes.
Why do people hate us so much?
That's. I wish I knew the answer to that. I think I, I I think it really is from ignorance. It's the same thing. Uh, it's I mean, like in this country, you have we have this election coming up, and I always wonder. So you have like someone like Donald Trump. Just use the example. Oh, the migrants, they're emptying the jails and the prisons and the mental institutions. They're all coming across the border, and the people, like, you go into the city where there's a melting pot, and we see all different kind of people, and like New York City, we all get along. And then, like, I was just recently up in the Poconos where there's all these Trump signs, and it's like I don't understand. Like, you have to be afraid of, like, in this every election, you're going to be afraid of the boogeyman, and but you go around like a small town in the Poconos, they never seen the boogeyman. They're not going to, like, every year it's like the boogeyman will be coming. That there's never going to be a boogeyman, but they will be terrified of the boogeyman, because they don't see it. And I think if you go, let's say, I'm thinking out loud, but I remember my law school roommate. He grew up in Swickley, Pennsylvania, which is this suburb of Pittsburgh. I went to University of Pittsburgh Law School, and he said, like, he went to Carnegie Mellon undergrad, which there's a lot of Jewish people there, but he had thought that all Jews had black hats and beards. He never saw a Jewish person look like a regular person. So there's a lot of ignorance, or like, I've never seen I don't see them around here. And then you turn on the TV and you see people, and like, whoever, and then you create stories. So and I think also things get passed down from generation to generation, and there's always that little bit that it was there thousands of years ago, and it just gets passed on and passed on and passed on, and it's easy. It's the easy way to go to blame others. I think that's the lazy way of doing it, and unfortunately, too many people are lazy.
Would you be amenable to? You used to be a cantor, Chazan. Would you be amenable to concluding our show with a song?
Wow, they're putting me on the spot.
Perhaps a prayer from Shabbat.
Okay, so let me just say one thing of like, if I had a dream, like, if I could do anything. When my daughter was bat mitzvah, she had to learn how to Torah trope, and so I said, I'm going to learn too. Before then I didn't learn Torah trope.
That's the notes in the Torah.
The notes in the Torah, and I find that so amazing that somebody spent time writing the notes to, like, the musical notes to the Torah. And it's always frustrating when I go to shul where it's like, oh man, but it's like rambling. And so when I took it on, and I was like, Amen, Abraham ben Mashana. I'm messing up the words. V'halelo et Yitzchak Shemo v'tomet Sarah Sichok Osali Elohim Kol HaShomeach Yitzchak Li. And it's the same thing. Somebody else will be like, so I would love to, like, spend time just going from parsha to parsha part and slowing it down to get the music. There's music there. So that's like my one frustration. If I had the choice to do, take the Torah trope and sing it like probably how it was meant to be sung, that you're really singing to God, that, like, look, the Torah, you gave me the Torah. And like, so God was like, yeah, I wrote that. Yeah, that's me.
Yes.
And so that's my thing. Like you said, why do people? Hey, I don't know the answer, and I don't know why people when they read the Torah every Shabbos, it has to be like, oh man, it's just like that. Like it's a race. Like they have the race to get they have to go to the bathroom.
You realize that not every Balkore individual who reads the Torah reads it like that. There are some who do.
Yes.
I have a
understand.
brother-in-law. I have a brother-in-law who's been reading the Torah for decades, and he's a perfectionist, and he takes it really seriously. And when he goes into shul on Shabbat and he lanes, he reads the Torah with the trop, with the notes. Yeah, he's brilliant at it.
Oh, wonderful.
Now, I used to go to a shul across the street from here, and they would hire a young man to do the laning, and he was never prepared. So you would sit there and you would listen to the beautiful piece of Torah and liturgy, sort of, and he would make mistake after mistake after mistake. And I thought, no, that's not right. You should put some time into that, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Stephen Joseph, I know you're excited that the show is sponsored, and I thank you for that. It is sponsored by the Professional Center, Toronto's leading co-working space where excellence is the norm. From private sunlit offices to fully equipped meeting rooms, their spaces are designed to allow you to focus and to get to work. TBC, they combine high-end amenities with unparalleled service, ensuring your office experience meets the highest standards. Discover why TPC offers more sophistication, more privacy, more opportunities to grow. And for more information, visit theprofessionalcenter.com. Now, what name do you need to mention, Stephen, just to get 10% off private offices and meeting rooms?
Avrum.
Yeah, very good. Excellent.
Yes.
AVRUM. Do you want to throw out your website one more time?
StephenJosephAuthor.com.
Excellent. Stephen, thank you once again. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for having me. It was great.
And I really appreciate your insight. You did a tremendous job. And I love how you're leading your life. Kol hakavod. Well done.
Thank you.
Very inspiring. Ladies and gentlemen, the show is called the Avrum Rosensweig Show. And the idea behind the show really is to honor humankind. It's to pay tribute to some of the greatness and inspiration that we see around us all the time. The idea is to open up our eyes to that, really, and to take it in. And I believe very strongly that when and if we're more conscious of the incredible things that we've created in life, like Stephen's books, that I think that would be a fine road to more peace in our world, which has the potential just to be an absolute gem. So we will see you soon. Again, it's called the Avrum Rosensweig Show. You can find it on YouTube and all major podcast outlets. Until then, like they say in Yiddish, Sei gesund. Take care and think. Yeah, exactly. Sei gesund, and we'll see you soon.